Please don't start. Hi everyone, how are you? Hope you're doing really well. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't met, hi, you can call me Shannon and this is my channel. Today we have a video that I'm really nervous about because today, as you saw in the title, I'm going to be ranking all the palettes that I've been using for the last 4 months. That's from January to April. For this video I decided to go with 8 palettes, not because those are all the palettes that I have used in the last 4 months, but are the palettes that I have used more than once, more than twice, or I have used enough, like for me feeling that I have some understanding or of how that palette works. So today we will be going with the palettes that I have used enough for me to feel comfortable to rank them. To be honest, there is one other palette that maybe could fit in this video, but in the next month I'll be using it a lot more, so I don't want to rank it today and I'll be ranking it in the next video. But yeah, I don't want to make this introduction any longer, so let's get started. So I'll be ranking these palettes from the lower to my favorite. In this video, at least, there is no palette that I say like this palette is really bad, this palette is not worth it, but in comparison to the other palettes I've been using, this is my least favorite right now. In the 8th place we have my Lilith palette. You might be familiar with this palette because it's in my using my eyeshadow palettes project. To be honest, this is the palette in that project that I have used the less. I don't know why, but in the last month I've been using it a little more. I have used the shimmers, this one, and this one. So I have used enough to have an idea of how I like this palette, and I'm not a big fan. The mattes are really good. The ones that I have used, I really like them. This one over here, I really like it to deepen out any eye look that is a little bit more warm. I think my issue with these palettes are the shimmers. As I said, the mattes, I really like them, but the shimmers looks really nice. They're really special. I really like how this one looks in the palette, but applied at the eye, I don't know, they're too chunky. They look too thick on my eyelids and I don't like the look. It's hard to apply them. I don't know, I'm not a big fan. Maybe I'll end up finding a way to use them in a way that I really like, but as right now, I'm not a big fan of the shimmers, and for that reason, this is my least favorite. In the 7th place, we have Ruby Obsessions by Huda Beauty. This is a pretty old release in the brand, and it looks like this. It's a monochromatic red palette, and I have used 5 out of the 9 shades. The shimmers, at least these ones, are really nice. I like the mattes, even if this dark one is not as dark, it's not too pigmented, but I can make it work. I think my issue with this palette is the color story. I'm not a big fan of reds and I don't think they suit me too much. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with this palette, or I haven't had any issues with this palette, but my issue with it is the color story. But I have heard that this satin shade, this red, is really bad, and for the same reason I haven't tried to use it, and maybe if I use it, this palette will be even lower in this ranking. I don't know, I haven't used it, so I cannot tell you, but yeah, this is the 7th place. In the 6th place, I have a palette that I haven't used in a while, but at the beginning of the year, like in January, I used a lot, and I think it's a really nice palette for summer and spring, and it's the Enchanted palette from W7. This palette is a dupe from the Soul Blooming from Nabla, and it looks like this. I was trying to pan this palette, so I use it quite a bit, but then I get bored and stop using it, and I didn't have any pans on it. It has some interesting shades. These ones are kind of toppers, these 3, and they're not the same, but they kind of remind me of Super Tactiles from Colourpop. It's not the texture, but it's the kind of look that you can get with those shades, and they're really nice, so I like this palette. But at the same time, those same shades are really hard to apply. I need to use a glitter glue to apply them, or they get lost and it looks like nothing. So yeah, it's a really nice palette. I like it quite a bit, but I don't love it. So there's other palettes that I like more than this one. Now we're going with the fifth place, and for me this feels like a little bit of cheating, because to be honest, today is just the second time I have used this palette. So what I said at the beginning, that if I didn't use it enough, so yeah, it feels like a little cheating. But the first time that I use it, I use a lot of shades because it's my Magic Mini, and when I received it, I made a palette bingo with this one, so I used 5 out of the 16 shades that I think it has. Yeah, 16 shades. And today I use another 2 shades, so I have used 7 out of the 16. I have used mostly the shimmers in this palette. I think the only matte that I have used is this dark blue here that is called Yehide. But the shimmers in this palette are really nice. Today I'm using the shade Suba. And I really like the shimmers in this palette. But from what I heard from the brand, their weakness are the mattes, and I have only used one matte in this palette, so maybe when I use more of the mattes, maybe I don't like it as much. But yeah, it's a really pretty palette. I like the color story. My only issue with it is that I'm not a big fan of blues and greens, and it has a couple of blues and greens. But for days that I feel like using blues, this color, as I said, is amazing. One of my favorite shades in this palette. Okay, let's move on and go with the fourth palette, and for that we have my New England from Ciate. This palette, it's on my, I have said this like a million times, but it's in my battle tip project on my Instagram. The mattes in this palette are really nice, and the shimmers too. They're kind of different formulas. No, not formulas. Not all the shimmers feel the same. That is kind of weird. For example, this one is really soft, but there are others that are a little more thicker. There are some satins. So yeah, it's a really nice palette. I really like it. And this shade over here, it's funny, I'm not a big fan of using blues and greens on my eyes, but I really like this shade. It's so pretty, and for winter it's going to be amazing. So yeah, this is in the 5th place, or the 4th. No, this one is the 4th place. In the 3rd place, this one was hard. Between the 2nd and the 3rd was really hard for me to pick. But in the 5th place, I have my Aha Honey. Again, this palette is in my using my eyeshadow palettes project, and I've been using it a lot, and I really like it. I really like golds, and this is how this palette looks. This palette I really like. My only issue with this palette is that it has a glitter, and I'm not a big fan of glitters on my eyes. But I found a way to use those glitters on my nails. Actually, I'm using the yellow glitter today. To be honest, in the last 2 months, I've been using mostly the mattes because it's a yellow palette and the metallics are just golden, and I'm trying to hit pan on my Panda palette golden. Let's move on because I want to finish this soon. Okay, in the 2nd place we have my Lockwood palette. This one, to be honest, I'm not feeling it that much right now because it's really colorful, and lately I've been preferring more subtle soft looks. But in the summer I really enjoy using this palette. I've been using a lot of the pink and the purple over here, and the shimmers are pretty nice. Some of them are more flaky and other ones are more like a normal metallic shimmer, but yeah, I really been liking using this one. And finally, in the first place, we have my blush crush from Colourpop. This palette for summer, for spring, is just amazing, and I've been using it mostly on warm days. And again, I don't want to show you that much of the palette, but this palette looks like this. It's a really pretty palette. I really like pinks on my eyes. The mattes are really nice. This shimmer Blossom Up, I'll show you a swatch. It's kind of similar to the shade that I'm using on my eyes today. It's kind of a duochrome. It's pink, but it has like a golden reflect. That is one of my favorite colors. I think what I like the most about this palette is the fact that it's mostly pinks or mauves and that kind of colors I really like. So yeah, those were all the palettes that I've been using for the last 4 months. Let me know which palette you've been using the most for the last couple of months, which one is your favorite palette, and I hope you like this video, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye!